nice. Front and back, leader's garment. Quite happy.
It's alright, isn't it? Looks pretty good in that bad boy.
Excellent, I think the word you're looking for is. Look at that thing. Looks beautiful, done. Beautiful.
Now, only if you're ready for this.
Welcome back to the OTV podcast, the original and still the best New Zealand mountain bike podcast, with a special guest today who probably might actually claim a more original mountain bike podcast than ours, but Wyn Masters joining the podcast. Excited to have you on here, Wyn. Thanks for coming, mate.
Yeah, cheers for having me on, guys. Always good to catch up. So, yeah, we're living on the other side of the world, so we don't really catch up too much, but it's always a good time.
No, it was good. We had a good catch up at the DME at the start of the year, so it's a bit like a reunion from that one. But in the usual co-host seats, Lester Perry and Chris Vanderkolk. Boys, are good?
Great. Chris, you?
Excellent.
Actually, KB, I got to ask a question. Have you changed up your podcast studio tonight?
Yeah, I'm in the this is my office / kids toy room, so you can see there's a cool Spider-Man poster and a few blocks and things on the wall behind me.
It's good to get a bit of colour in the background, eh?
Yeah, I thought I'd switch it up tonight, but keep things fresh, keep them fresh and light. But
true.
On the podcast topic,
that's hard to follow. So walk around. I've got a quick question before we kick off for Wyn. On average, how many podcasts are you doing a month, and where does this rank in terms of kind of quality, enjoyment, and value for the listeners, value for your brand? I figure there's always like a bit of an exchange when an athlete does a podcast, sort of like maybe we're helping with exposure, you're helping us with exposure, but the balance seems off on this one.
It's definitely like about a 95 to 5%. Like it's 95% in our benefit.
No, well, it's more for enjoyment, this one, and then if I enjoy it, then the listeners enjoy it. So that's what it's all about, and it's just good to catch up with some Kiwis after there's plenty on the World Cup, but when you're here living in the UK, you don't see too many of them around. So I'm not in London where the OE people go. So
yeah, where they all are.
yeah. So yeah.
I've got a podcast question for you as well, Wyn. What happened to the Win or Lose podcast? I was an avid listener.
That was a COVID project, and I have had requests to bring it back. Possibly in the off season, I could do that.
It's a lot of work, though, eh?
Yeah, just when the season's on and the races are going, it's like, it's too much to try and do everything. I could probably do it, but then I'd be letting the family down at home probably if I was trying to commit to another thing,
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah, we we let the family down on a daily basis, but I guess you're pretty busy though, because you're always doing videos. Like you've always got content coming out of a World Cup, so it's not like you're like a lot of guys who just sit around and do nothing after practice.
Yeah, like normally the World Cup week's pretty hectic. It's just trying to keep the team running as well. So we've got to make sure everyone's good with the team.
Yeah.
And that's a struggle in itself sometimes. Like when you haven't had payments come through or certain things, then it's quite hard to pay everyone. But
you sound like a true team owner now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the normal, like? Let's just give us an example of a World Cup week for you, Wyn.
Yeah. So normally the races are either Saturday or Sunday. So we normally arrive Monday or Tuesday, and sometimes Sunday. So the last World Cup, for example, I arrived Sunday, but I went to the Grand Duro gravel race the weekend before. So then I did that gravel race on the Saturday, and then Sunday, me and Angus McDonald is my filmer. He's Hamish McDonald's brother, and actually, he films normally Moto Enduro, but he's from Christchurch. So he's switched over.
With us, Wyn?
No, not him. I don't think.
Oh, okay.
What during the DME?
Yeah,
No, it's not him. I don't think so. But
he's got eyes in every town.
Yeah.
oh no, not that guy. No, but I've got pretty much quite a few filmers. But Angus is like contracted for the whole year. And I pay him when I get paid, as we were mentioning. But but yeah. So me and him drove from the Grand Giro. That's probably where I picked up the sinus infection, sleeping in a tent.
That'll do it.
Then I had like a gnarly sinus headaches, and then I was like, oh, I have to do some downhill. So Monday I rode downhill at Plenty because I like to ride downhill like close to the race, at least, so I'm like kind of refreshed again. Otherwise, you come in pretty rusty when you hit a World Cup practice day.
What do you mean the
And
gravel
you don't-
bikes? Is the gravel bike quite different to the downhill bike?
It's not great
Slightly,
spread.
yeah. Slightly, yeah.
So like Kate pulling the Santa Cruz out the day before nationals for the one downhill race a year.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the best approach.
Nah.
I've figured out over the last few races. Anyway, so Monday I rode, then Tuesday I was pretty sick. So I was not doing much, just trying to rest. But then the team has to get set up, so they've got to set the pits up and everything. Luckily we have a very small pit, so we don't have like one of those 1 day setups. We've got a 5x5 easy up.
Yeah.
So you can do it with 2 people, and it's quite easy. And the last few races I've had 2 mechanics, and I have Sole is a girlfriend of one of the mechanics who cooks for our team as well. So we keep everything going with them, and she does all the shopping, so that's quite handy because we discovered at Fort William that it's not the best if you're trying to do the shopping, the cooking, and race, and then do videos as well. So yeah, we got her pretty much from the second race. So it's been a big help. And then Wednesday's already track walk day, so we're pretty early because we've got official media passes this year. So we go up with the elite teams. I'm registered in a non-elite team, but that's just so I can race really. And so we can get our pit space. So we work together with Rogue Racing, which is an Italian GT team.
Yeah.
And they just pay a bit more to have a larger pit space, and we just pit next to them. So it's quite a good way to not have to register your own team.
I was going to ask you that because I noticed that you were like in the Rogue Racing setup, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Just otherwise I would have to register my own team. That's like €5,000, and it doesn't benefit me at all. So it's much easier doing it like that, and we're both GT teams, so it works pretty well. It makes it easy, and then we're normally up the hill for like 10 or 11, depending on what time the track walk starts. And then it's a pretty long track walk. At Leger, it was really long because all the teams tried to spread out because at the start of the season they all go at the same time, and it's super easy to get all your video content. But then they all like, oh, I don't want to walk and have all these people in the way. So they all try and go at different times. And you have some guys that will even like sneak up before it starts, or they'll do it the day before, and it's just like, it's a bit of a mess. So then I've got to try and interview enough people from the top riders, at least anyway, on that track walk. So generally I don't see that much of the track walk because I'm doing the interviews at the same time.
Not actually paying that much attention.
No, some bits you're like, oh, I've got to run to catch whoever's just walked past while we're doing an interview. So you're watching who's walking past and doing the interview because you're like, oh, I need that person as well. So then you have to run down. You'll miss like a fair bit of the track, but normally it works out all right. And then yeah, after that, then we've got Angus edits pretty fast, and then I've got to upload it because it goes on my channel. And then it's like, normally upload is pretty annoying. It drags on. And unless the media internet's fast, then we can go to the media room, do it there. But it depends. Normally we've sometimes not edited by the time the media room closes. So that can be a problem. At some races this year, I was like having to drive to the track at 7 a.m. so I could upload the video before the practice starts because the track walk video is like timely.
Yeah.
Post race video is not as timely. So you don't want your track walk video to go out after there's practice content. Otherwise, it's not relevant anymore. So,
That's
yeah,
hectic, man.
that's a struggle, yeah, because internet's different everywhere, and we could get Starlink, but I don't really see that we have quite the budget for just having Starlink.
But you're a proper media company when you've got like, your own mobile internet set up.
But Bernard has Starlink in his pit. Yeah,
but he's also got a Porsche and a Ferrari and fuck knows what else, right?
and a school bus.
Yeah.
He's fine with Starlink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of vans. Yeah.
Hey, so
And
what's
quite a small tent, but
what's
yeah.
what's your team setup? Is it just you and Luke, or have you got other?
Me and Luke are like full-time riders, and then aside from that,
Just getting interrupted. No.
Aside from me and Luke, we've picked up Ella Spegby, who's a Swedish junior girl.
I've seen her. She's had some good results.
Yeah, we were going to register her under the Rogue Racing thing, but we were a bit late for the transfer date, so that didn't happen. But we're supporting her for the last few races anyway. It was only her second ever downhill race, and I think in Leogang, and she got fourth. And then Valdesol, she got fourth with a massive crash, and then she finished second in Leger. So it's pretty cool to help someone that's like, you can see that there's that much potential, and then they can progress so much as well. So we gave her a bike, and then we've got Gabe Neuron as a Canadian rider. He was our privateer from last year in Montserrat, so he was our first privateer at the first race, and we help one privateer at every race. So that changes from each race. Whoever wins the privateer thing from each race goes on to the next one, and then roll on through.
Actually, tell us about how your privateer deal works, like from each race, because that's pretty interesting. I think people find that like pretty cool.
Yeah. So say you're the fastest privateer or most impressive privateer at the last World Cup, then you win the privateer award, which is some money, as well as the next race. You can then pit with us.
Cool.
And then we also, if they want, it depends on like the gap between the races and stuff. We have a complete bike for them, full spec of like the same as my bike, all our sponsors, and then they can keep that if they want. So it's up to them if they want to ride that. And if certain riders have like small sponsors, so they can't do it, but some of them we can help quite a lot.
Yeah. So they get a complete bike and a bit of cash as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
Then mechanic support, accommodation support, food for the next race, and then they'll do that for one race. But then like the likes of Ella was just like impressive, so then we just try and help a bit more and keep going. Because normally you don't get podiums from these riders.
Yeah.
So it's like other teams pay like quite a lot to get those podiums, and then to be able to help someone to get a podium is like special, you know. So that was pretty cool. And then so it's quite busy because we got two mechanics, and then at the start we had one mechanic, but it was too hectic. And then Gabe was our first privateer at the first race, and then he's actually a mechanic as well, so it was real handy. It's like
just put him on the tools,
but you can help as well. And then he's like, oh, I'm gonna fly home on Monday, and then he's like, oh, actually I could stay for Poland if you want some help. And I'm like, we worked it out. I was like, oh, you can use my other van because I got two vans. You can use my other van and go around Europe in between. He's like, oh yeah, sweet. So yeah, and then we worked out a deal, and it's like from one day to the next, he's not going home anymore. And then he stayed until after Leger. So suddenly his like 10-day trip became like 6 or 7 weeks.
And so he just stayed and worked. So he became a mechanic.
He became a mechanic, but he was also riding as well.
Oh, what a
Because
legend.
generally the privateer would be like a junior, so then he'll just
Yeah.
work on the bike, or he'll do the bike the day before practice, and then he'll ride the next day. But it was like, it worked out pretty good actually. And then his girlfriend flew over to meet him, and then she did all our cooking. So we kind of lucked into that.
Perfect.
How do you find when you get like guys that? Oh, first question is: do you usually know the privateers like personally that are the guys kind of winning that, or are they often people you don't really know that well?
Not all the time. So sometimes it'll be like, you'll be like, oh, who's that? And you have to find someone that knows them, because like, and then you'll try, or I just try and call them on Instagram, because that's like the easiest way to contact someone.
It's
But
so
sometimes if you don't get an answer, then it's like a problem. You're like, oh, well, who? And they don't speak English. So we had that in Valdesol. We had the Italian guy, and he
That's
can't
right.
speak English.
I remember watching that video.
Yeah, his friend had to like do all the translation, but he's really fast. And then and he went in the finals in both Valdesol and Leger. And then in Leger he had that big crash off the thing, and I was there filming it. And they had to take him off to hospital. Yeah. So we didn't really help him, because he has like a friend that does mechanics, and he works at a bike shop. So his friend comes with him to the race, and they support him, like they have a little tent and stuff. So he doesn't need like actual support from our team, and he has a giant through the shop that he works at. So he works at a shop full time, and then he races the World Cups, and he's like been getting in the finals. I'm like, wow, this is pretty sick. And then he had that huge crash. I was like, no, he's not racing. He'd like cut his wrist open, but it looked like I ran down there because I was like, oh, I saw the crash. So I was like, it was horrible. Ran down there. I'm like, oh, he's got a compound fracture, because it's just like you could see the bone.
Oh.
And on the top of his wrist. And I was like, oh, it's a compound fracture. He's not racing. And then they're like, oh no, he could move it. And it was like, sweet. It was just a big gash from like a rock or from his bike when in the crash. And it was like right across his wrist. So it was like not ideal. Then they took him off, stitched it up, and then he calls his mate from the hospital. He's like, can you get the bike ready? I'm coming back to race. While it's like raining, because it was like raining for the final. So then he come back and did the final. And I'm like, what a guy. Like, and I can fully like respect that, because like when you do it yourself, you're like, I have to race. Like, there's more. You put more into it, you know. Like you're more invested in your own performance.
Yeah,
so you're like, I've got no choice. I've spent all this to be here, and I'm taking time off work, whatever. Like, and he just wanted to race, so it was like, hats off to him. Then he went down and crashed on the same wrist, so it was like blood coming out. And
That was a nasty
like,
crash.
from the finish area to get it cleaned up again.
Plus, getting a spot in finals is not easy in the current climate. And like, if you're grafting like that, like he is, like, man, you don't want to miss that opportunity.
Yeah, well, it's like, even if he finishes last, he gets the 30th place points.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't start, he gets 0 points. So it's like,
it's worth it.
If he finishes last, he's getting 30th at a World Cup, which is like unreal.
And there's who are outside that 30 as well.
A lot of them. Names. This year's crazy. Like, for some races, you just look at the names, you're like, whoa. Like, imagine, and then you're like, imagine being some of those guys, like, not being in the final, and they're like highly paid riders. So it's pretty rough and pretty stressful. But you had the last race, you had Greg in 30th, and then he goes third in the race. So it's like, there's so much possibility, like, especially at a mud race like that. Like, anything could happen if you could deliver a run. But it's it's pretty crazy right now.
Quite often, because semi-finals is like at night for us, I'll get up in the morning, and when I look at the semi-final results, I usually will start looking from like 30th. I kind of skim through the start of it, and then I get to 30th, and I'm like looking for who hasn't made it, because I'm like, oh shit, like that dude didn't make it, because it's like, some wild names in there.
And they might even be in the 40s, like those good names. Because the time from there to the 30 is nothing. Like in Leger, I made it through to the semi-final, and then I was like pretty smoked, because I'd had like a massive week, and I had that sinus infection.
Yeah.
And then I was like, had a massive crash on the practice and just broke my helmet. So I was like, my neck's still real bad from it, and
You're
I was
too
like,
old.
oh.
You can't be crashing.
Yeah. Well, luckily there was a pad on the tree, otherwise I wouldn't get up from that one. But
Jesus.
like then at the same place, like Amory and Loic crashed in the practice. It's like I'm like, well, I'm not that shit then, like these guys are crashing. These guys are crashing as well, but then I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Like that sucks, crashing like that. But if you want to be competitive in the World Cup, you have to ride like pretty fast in the practice. And then that was like,
How
keep
do
going.
you with all of the stuff that you've got to do for the weekend, and then go and try and qualify? Like, is that just, or is that like you have to G it up every time?
Yeah, sometimes you're not going to qualify. Like
you know
like
it.
you're like
when I
yeah,
know-
I'll go and do my best, but I ain't qualifying. Like you're smoked, so you're not, or like you have to have done like quite a few races leading in. Like generally, like my results have gotten better as I've raced through the season now, because I dial in the process a bit, and then I'm like bits where other races where I was not really organised enough to take the pressure off everything. Then I struggled in the race as such. But then, like, say Fort William was the start. Maybe I could have qualified, but then I had to do a rerun as well. So I did half of Fort William and then did a rerun. Then you start with it not qualifying. It's actually harder for the season probably because you're like, oh shit. Then you're constantly chasing your tail until you get in there, and then you're like, oh, you start believing it again, and then you can do it. But it's not easy right now. So yeah, I struggle sometimes to manage it, but other times, like in Leger, somehow it was easy, but I also crashed really bad, so I was like, I don't even know if I can ride. So then there was just no pressure anyway, and there's not pressure from anyone for me to get a result. It's not like no one cares about my result. It's more for myself than anyone else. Like the sponsors are not like, yeah,
you've got other purpose for the weekend, right? Like, if you don't have a quality, you've still got shit to do.
Yeah, I'm busy from, like, I'll go up there and film on the race day practice as well, because I can learn it from that, and I like to watch it. Like, I like to watch what people do before the final, and it's quite interesting sometimes, because sometimes people, like Loic quite often doesn't do much in final practice. Like, he'll be, like, chilling, or he'll be just looking at everything.
That's
and then
really interesting.
Amory is just, like, smashing it. Like, he wants, like, he pushed up and did this bit, the bit where the guy crashed. He pushed up and did it again, but the sweepers arrived, so he couldn't go up very far. So he just had to pedal into that thing where the guy crashed. And he almost crashed the same as the guy, like, just before his final run. And I'm like, whoa, it's not the best, but he does, like, he really works the track. Him and Loic, they are working hard on the track. Like, generally, I see them pushing more than anyone in sections in practice. So it's like crazy to see the work that goes in. Like, in Leo Gang, it was so muddy that they had to have a guy with like crampons on carrying Loic's bike. Like, the medical guy was helping them so that they could carry his bike up. But then I'm like, how can you like then start riding in that shit mud when you've walked through it all?
Yeah.
Like, and then ride the section well. So this isn't his last training run. It's like
That's
so
crazy.
much going into that last practice session. And then you also see like riders that are trying too hard and then they have crashes or they're out of control. So it's like quite an interesting practice session. So I normally watch that and then I'll go down and then it's the race and then I'm straight into interviews. So it's like from there, the race interviews go until like often 8 or 9 o'clock. And then Angus has to edit and then, yeah. Because, yeah, in Leger, it's really bad because the pits are everywhere, so you don't find any riders. So then you've got to walk. You're walking, from like 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock. Like, it's bad.
Just searching for people.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
But
crazy.
at a normal race, it's pretty easy.
How do you reckon your pace is like currently? Because you'll be 36 now.
37.
Yeah. Oh, you're 37 already. Yeah, you're slightly older than me. How do you reckon like you've still got the pace? I mean, obviously you made it through qualies and that, so
Yeah.
there's still some serious pace there. But like compared to a few years ago, maybe at your peak or theoretical peak.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, yeah, well, I don't know what I'd say. Probably my downhill peak was probably like 2015, but then that was because I'd like probably gotten comfortable in the setup that I had, and I didn't know how good the bike I had at the time was compared to the current bikes at the time.
Yeah.
So, but then
say that your peak was 10 years ago, but you're still like at the level you're at. Like, not many people would say their peak was 10 years ago and they're still there.
yeah, well, it's
That's
just like because I'm there every time, so like I'm still racing, and I think if I stopped racing, then it'll get real hard. Like you couldn't come back.
Nah.
Like you have to be there to keep learning and like know the process a bit and know the speed of the other riders, and then even bike setup and stuff. Like I've been riding the bike setup for the last 3 years. That was bad, like the shock was way too soft. So I can't like I thought that was good, but it was terrible. So I was just losing speed everywhere. I was struggling like in the most simple parts of the track and losing way too much time. And often that's where I lose the time. So I'll get time in the technical parts, but then in the really easy fast parts, I lose a lot of time to the top guys.
That's interesting.
But in Leger in my semi-final run, I actually had a good top split. So I was like, well, for me, it was a good top split. So I was like, yo, that's pretty good, because normally my top split's like around 100 to 90th, and then normally I just come back from there.
You're a bit of a diesel, like just warm into it and then get going.
Yeah. So I probably did more of a warm-up, but I do my warm-up on my e-bike. So I just pedal around on my e-bike and go on like a bit of a mission. Actually, it's so good to do that. And Nico told me that Acer has started doing that as well, and that Angel thought it wasn't right because that's not what everyone else does. But I'm like, for me, that's the best way to do your warm-up, because you're actually riding a bike and getting your brain warm.
It's got to be pretty dynamic too. Like everyone else just sitting on a trainer and doing
like
some exercises off the bike. It's not the same, is it?
No, and I can see how you need to get your muscles warm, but why not get your muscles warm doing something close to what you're going to do, and then get your brain firing as well. So normally, like some of the tracks are really sick. So you have like another trail that's next to the racetrack, and you can just do laps of the like top bit, and you're sweating when you start, and then you don't get too tired on the e-bike. So it's actually good, because on a normal bike you'd be smoked, but on the e-bike you don't blow yourself to bits. Like I think some people's warm-ups are way too hard. Like you watch some of them and you're like, what are they doing? Like I'd love to go and film all the warm-ups just to see like all the different methods, because there's some crazy shit going on up there.
Have you got one of those sweet balls that attaches to your head?
No, I don't have one of those.
You should get one of those. They look pretty trick.
That looks like the new thing for 2024.
Yeah, I did actually get one of those delivered to my house for Brooke. And I did film a video of me using it before I sent it to him.
I get what they're trying to achieve, but that's pretty hard case.
Does that help riding a downhill bike, like that you can hit a ball? I don't know.
I reckon what you should do, Wyn, is you should set up a speed, was it like a speed ball or a speed bag or whatever, like the boxing ones, and you should get that set up at the top of a hill one day and just like get that going at the start.
That'd be
We
gold.
could do like a full-on warm-up, like
full Rocky Balboa warm-up at the top.
You can see that, like Wyn's alternative warm-ups section.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people kind of laugh at me doing wheelies around on my e-bike, but it's way more fun, and it's actually what you do on your bike, like sitting on a trainer is like, I do that only if it's really raining or something and there's nowhere to be outside. That's when I'd sit on the trainer, but sitting on a
like
trainer is
Fort William.
quite bad for your mind. Yeah,
Mm.
you don't get fired up. You know.
I remember at US Open one year, and we were sitting at the top of the hill, and Brent Atkinson comes up off the lift, and he jumped straight on his bike and went and did a downhill run down a track, like just off to the side of the downhill track, and then
Yeah.
next thing turns back up at the top of the hill like 5 minutes before his run, and you're like, yeah, that would be dialed because you've actually just
That's a
ridden your
great idea.
downhill bike. Like,
Yeah.
I think he did pretty well as well from memory.
Mechanic wouldn't probably let me do that, but
Nah, it would be risky. It would be a risky
get a
move.
flat tire or break a
Yeah.
derailleur off. Sorry, mate.
Yeah.
Can you
I
change
snapped
that
my
real
chain.
quick?
I snapped my chain on my e-bike at Valdesol, so he had to fix that so Luke could do his warm up because junior qualifying starts after us for qualifying. So yeah, then he had a bit of stress for the mechanic, but
Got
Well,
to
part
die.
of the job, isn't it?
Right. I was going to ask the on the mechanic with his girlfriend deal. Is she getting paid when he gets paid when you get paid?
She's third in line.
They were luckily for them and unlucky for them, their payments were not huge. So when a payment came through, it was quite good and it was easy. So yeah,
Carve a little bit off.
yeah.
Classic.
The ham was
What do
down
you?
to the bone.
You've been like you were pretty vocal with the change up of adding in qualies and qualifying and semis and all the rest of it. Now that we're like halfway through this season or over halfway through this season, how do you think it's all going this year? Like, what's your take on it now?
Well, the semi-final can still do one because it's not really adding to the event, and the way they sold it to us was that it'll be more coverage, but they don't do coverage anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Can't even watch it now.
So yeah, and even at the event, it's not even on the screen. So as a rider at the event, you're just watching times come through. It's not very exciting. Like and nor for the fans. Like yeah, it's maybe good for the fans on site that can go on track and watch two race runs, but other than that, there's no real advantage to it. And then you lose often, like in Leger, you lost Dylan Maples, who was on fire that weekend. Could have had a breakout performance. So, and he had I think he won the bottom split in his semi-final, but he'd crashed above. So, stuff like that kind of sucks to lose top riders sometimes due to just like an unnecessary extra run.
What's the deal with point structure in that?
For the teams or for the semi-finals?
For the semis.
0.
So there's no points.
There's 0 points for UCI points, but there's World Cup points.
What?
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So say in the semi-final, I can only score points from the semi-final in the finals. From the finals for myself, like I don't get any UCI points, so I'm like that's why I'm always starting at the back now.
Ah,
Whereas you used to get UCI points all the way through, like
You used to get UCI points to 60th. So so now you qualify, you go to the semi-final. If you don't finish better than 30th, you ain't getting points that weekend.
It's
I didn't realize that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was one they kind of snuck under the rug last year, and they said that they're going to remove that potentially, and then it just hasn't. It's like I feel like that's just a way to get rid of riders that are good, that are close to being in there, and then you can allow riders that have points from whatever national or regional little race that has UCI points.
Which there might be some merit to that if there was enough of those globally.
No, and depending where you live, yeah.
Yeah, but there's like Oceania.
Like the idea of like you can get in from your region if no one else from your region is trying to get in.
Yeah. Or if your region's not very good, then you're the national champ. So then you start with the good riders, like the good riders ranked outside 60th. You start with them. whereas I start now like number 200 or whatever. Like I think in Leger I was 187, so it's probably like the last number 2 qualifier.
Remember, we used to have like 2 national rounds, Oceanias and national champs that had UCI points, and like you would come into the season with so many points. I think one year I came into the first World Cup ranked 3rd overall in UCI points, behind like Sam and Mick or something like that. It was
Yeah,
like,
it's-
And then what happened, KB? And then what happened?
just I was shit.
he beat them.
Yeah. I ended up first. No, actually, I ended up
Yeah.
19th in points that year. It was a pretty good year
Wow.
for me. Yeah,
That is
Yes.
pretty good.
that was my best year for sure. I would have had the Wyn Masters Privateer Award because I was the privateer
Yeah.
of the year.
If only it was there.
Yeah,
Last-
if only someone was as forward thinking as you were back in 2008.
This is what we talked about last week when I said, I sort of met my heroes through this. Like, KB, you were ranked 19th. And
Yeah.
I'm on a podcast with you. Like, I peaked.
Hey, we were hanging out in Red Dog's Honda Civic doing Manies way before then.
Right, you were burning that club.
Now
Mm.
we actually kind of like partially got Wyn on here because me and Wyn got into a bit of a Tour de France discussion on Instagram, I think it was, and I was like, we should get someone on here because I mean we've been following it, and I know Wyn's always been a pretty avid drop bar fan as well. So we thought we should bring some uninformed Tour de France chat to the podcast this week as well. But
Well, Wyn's actually closer because he's actually been to the tour, so there's
He
at
has.
least
Yeah.
at least an increment of knowledge there.
yeah,
A couple
much
of
better than us.
times, yeah.
And you actually rode in like was it the Shimano neutral service car at Paris-Roubaix last year as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I've done a neutral service car at the tour as well. So
Really?
yeah.
That's cool.
I didn't fix any punches, but yeah.
Do you do any
I just-
derailleur
I-
tunes out the window or anything?
No, we did straighten someone's stem, and he rode next to us straightening the stem. And I was like, all right,
That's
yeah.
keen.
It was pretty
That's
good.
sick.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. He's like, comes to grab the tri key, and that's what he wanted. So I was like, this is pretty good.
That's
like
wild.
sitting in the back watching that, you're in the front passenger seat, but then you're just watching the whole thing go down. And you're like, this is pretty gnarly. And then just the neutral service car is so crazy how what they have to drive through. What those team cars drive through is insane. Like it's ridiculous. They've got those crazy horns that are real loud, like like it's really loud horn. And then there's just spectators and riders they're trying to navigate through because they've got like a position. Like each team car has a place where they need to be, and each neutral service car has a place where they're meant to be for the race. So when they fix a puncture, they've got to get back to that place. And getting
so
back
they
through
don't
is
switch
so
around.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we drove through people at the tour, and I was like, they're rubbing on our window, like their elbows. The riders. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
this is so dangerous for them. Like, because there's no space, and the spectators are like all trying to get close. So we're like, our wheels of the car were on the grass on the side, and we're rubbing riders' elbows to try and get back to our position, like, because that's where we have to be. And he just has to hold that horn down, so all the riders know that horn's coming, and they've got to try and move
They
across.
know it's a
but they
neutral
can't.
service.
Yeah,
That's
and they hate neutral service because they're always trying to get back to position. So, like, fair enough, as a rider, you would hate it, but like, at least they're going to be there when your
When you
team
need it.
car's off somewhere else, yeah, and you might be able to ride the Shimano bike with the dropper post.
Oh, has it got a dropper post on? I always wondered what they would do.
Yeah, and they've got like 5 or 4 bikes on the roof, and they've got like Shimano pedal, whatever look pedal, and like all the different pedals, speed play, and then so they have to ask the guy what pedals he has, and then give him the bike, and then he can do the dropper post.
That's insane.
This is
But
so funny.
dropper post is new, so that a few years ago there was like you'd see riders on a bike way too small. And
Well, it's
then
like when
now,
last year Jonas had to jump onto one of his teammates' bikes, and it was so big. It looked like what you feel like as a kid when you get on like an adult's bike.
Yeah,
He
that's
just looked
pretty
like
funny,
a
yeah.
little kid riding dad's bike.
yeah, it's pretty mad, but they they do quite a lot of stuff. Like they do help quite a lot, and they give bottles as well, which is pretty good.
Mm.
So
What about
you see quite a lot? Yeah.
your Paris-Roubaix experience, like in the cobbles? Was the car just getting smashed in the cobbles? Because some of those roads look rough.
Oh, that like you don't want to ride. There's part of that, like the Arenberg Forest, is rough. Would be rough on my enduro bike. Like it's so rough. Like
And they're going through there doing like 45, 50 k's an hour in a
yeah, well,
bunch.
they put the shit chicane before
I
it this
saw
year,
that.
but like it's for safety, which kind of makes sense. Because the year I was there, the year before, it was like they go in there as fast as they can because it's a race to there, really. So you
Yeah.
can be in the front, then you're not gonna. When the crash comes, you're fine. When we drove in there, there's like bikes with like wheels snapped in half, the handlebar off. Like I'm like, this is just like
A war
a
zone.
lottery. If you can finish this is a lottery. And there's just riders like Sagan was on the side, like he was the first one in the cobbles to crash. He's on the side like with blood just pissing out of his head. I'm like, wow, this is so hectic. This race is like not meant for a road bike. Like it doesn't make
fully,
sense. Yeah.
No, you're right.
And yeah.
When you watch the tour, like just even following it on the highlights, but when you watch closely, you see just how fucking dangerous it is. It's so wild. Like just even some of those sections where they're coming into small towns and they're hooking, and the road suddenly gets half the width, and the peloton just deals with it. That's the stuff that just you go, these guys are operating on a different level.
Or there's a road furniture of some sort. And
Yeah.
they just have to split
Yeah.
suddenly, and then one guy can't get either side. So he's
What do they call them? The form fuckers.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Poggy nearly hit that
Dude.
one, eh? He got so close.
That one was loose. He looked like he was on the front wheel and he just managed to dodge it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he used to do cyclocross, maybe.
Yeah.
His handling
So,
is so good,
It's
eh?
really good, yeah, because some of them their handling's not that good, and you can see it. Like Poggy, it makes a difference, and I think even some mountain bikers now have started coaching road cyclists, like to get them more comfortable at descending, and they work on that. Yeah, they're working on that because it would save you a lot of energy if you were a bad descender.
I think
Well, you
Pitcock
see-
has opened people's eyes to that, of like how you can actually make real gains by descending quickly.
I heard an interesting thing the other day from the tour, and it was might have been Lanton Rouge, and the dude had analysed the time gap between Pogacar and Vingegaard, and basically equalised their climbing. It was equalised the climbing and figured out how much time Vingegaard had lost on the descents, and it was lots. Like he lost a lot of time just on descents. So I think you're right though. Like if you can descend like any of those top guys, well, you know, the top couple of guys, there's time there. Let alone the energy factor.
It's wild when you see some of the speeds, you know, like the motorbikes, and they'll pan up from the or pan down to the speedo. It'll be like 105 k's an hour coming down into like hairpins. You're like, Jesus Christ!
Have you guys done 100k an hour on a bike before?
I haven't.
I have, yeah.
I've tried, but
Yeah,
I
I've
think I got
tried.
to 90. I got like 97 or 98, and that is so fast.
When you've probably done it, right?
I actually got pulled into the hill at Montsanan.
Oh yeah, coming
downhill.
down off the mountain. Yeah.
Yeah, I got pulled in by a car at 100k.
I remember that.
Oh.
That was a few years
Yeah.
ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, but then when you pull up a manual, it's pretty hard to pull the wheel up.
Did you get some
Because of all
advice
the-
from Bobby Root on how to do it
No,
from
I
your
didn't.
sort of
but
days?
He's got the world record still, Guinness World Record.
You
That's
need to take him
crazy.
down.
Yeah. Well, if you had a truck that had like a
Fairing.
wind thing
Yeah.
to block the wind, then you could do it easy. You know, like it wouldn't be hard then, because the wind is the problem.
Yeah.
And then actually the police came and we had to hide in the bush. So yeah, that was my 100k an hour wheelie story.
I can see like Wyn's wheelie world records coming on. Like, just say the word, Wyn. OTV
Yeah.
podcast to make it happen.
Yeah. You were going to the Bonneville Salt Flats.
Yeah, but you have to pedal in and then do the manual.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So what was everyone's standout moment of the tour, or was there any standout moments of the tour for everybody?
Well, I think every attack that Pog just laid waste to Vingegaard on the mountains was my standout moments. Holy shit, when that guy attacks, it is something else. No? No one else?
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
My highlight was the 25 seconds at the end of one of the day's highlights of Vircha crying.
Oh, yes. They just dwelled on it a little bit long, eh?
Yeah, it was like, they've got the highlights package and they take, all the moments and like the emotion, all the rest of it. And then kind of in the credits section, they like just sat there looking at it. He's sitting on the side of the track at the end of the race in tears, head in his hands, and they just held the camera a bit long. Just like almost kind of going, this is cruel.
Yeah. That's funny, eh?
I would go with Benny getting the 3 wins.
That was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
And making history.
Yeah. Because
Which
I think
didn't-
it's such a sorry, you go on.
They didn't really say what he made history doing, but they were like, history is made in their social media posts. And I'm like, well, yeah.
what was the historic part?
Yeah, the first...
Mate.
Yeah, the first African to win a stage in the Tour de France.
And he goes and wins the green jersey.
Yeah.
That's
And,
a really like kind of acknowledgement, but not acknowledgement, right? Like,
yeah, a little bit, yeah. But it's
obviously intentional.
yeah, and it's I don't know, it's kind of how much can you say, and he's the first black winner of the Tour de France stage, which is really good for cycling because probably that opens the door to African cyclists and all cyclists really worldwide to be a little bit more inclusive because I wouldn't say it's a very inclusive sport, road cycling.
No.
So traditional and yeah.
Well, I think cycling in general.
In a law firm, and they sort of own the sport, but I like to think Porsche and you're on the Wyn trainer.
Yeah.
It's a terrible. I mean, cycling in general, it's terrible for that. Like,
it's only getting worse
such
as well.
an exclusive sport. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I watched the Armstrong, one of the recent documentaries that done sometime in the last couple of years. And it's interesting because it does feel like it sort of feels like we're in like a really good era of cycling post the Armstrong era. Because the Armstrong era was real like corporate bro kind of cycling, real American Armstrong thing. And it does feel a little bit like it's not as like macho as it once was. Like it does feel like it's a little bit more like the history of cycling is maybe back as part of the story.
Probably depends which team you're in. Also, some of the teams are probably pretty old school management, and then some of them are getting young people in. You look at anything Patrick Lefevre says.
Yeah, good call.
He's very, very controversial.
Yeah. It is interesting, eh? Like you look at, I mean, if you are talking about, say, doping, for example, how many dudes that are in those teams in high places have been caught up in some of those scandals in years gone by, like it's, I mean, you would like to think that stuff's not happening anymore, but
who knows?
What's the new thing that they're doing? CO2.
Yeah, actually, I saw a new article posted on something today.
Is baking soda still relevant, or is the baking soda thing gone again now?
Yeah, it makes your cakes grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That CO2 thing was interesting, but I think it's still. I don't think the gain out of that would be from the small things that I've read, which are probably hearsay as well. Doesn't sound like it would give you much of an advantage. They use it as a measurement tool more than anything.
Yeah, to measure how they can perform at the altitude or how the altitude training's going.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
So is it like a measurement thing they're doing of CO2 or like training in a certain level of it or something?
I think it can be used in two ways. One is it measures, essentially, from what I can make of it, it is measuring if the altitude training is having the right effect on your red blood cells
Yeah.
by a CO2 breath measurement somehow. And then the other part of it can be that you actually breathe the CO2 and it apparently then helps your hemoglobin numbers come up. But
Take it with a CO2 in.
yeah.
I've got a question for
Hit some
you
nangs.
about altitude. Have you ever spent any time in a
Altitude tent.
tent?
No, I haven't, Chris. I think we all know someone in New Zealand who has, though.
It's been a couple.
A couple of people at the same time.
Hey, we talked about Benny winning the green jersey. Do you guys find the sprint stages as horrifically boring as I do? Because I just can't be
I've
bothered
been
with
waiting
them.
for this to come up.
Yeah.
I hate that.
all
I
about
fucking
mountain
hate
stage.
the sprint. I just want to see a tour to mountains.
Yeah.
I think they've got their place because it gives the climbers a day off, and I think it makes the climbing stages better because the climbers are coming in pretty fresh. But what gets me, I can give or take a climbing stage, whatever. A sprint stage, because really I don't have that much interest in anything apart from that last 20 seconds. But what is interesting is the other armchair critics out there who are like, oh, the sprinters are all fat and they can't climb and
Like Cam at the start of the tour, barely made it through the first day.
Yeah. But those guys are animals as well, Even
they're
their
freaks.
climbing numbers are better than most. In fact, I would say 99% of the average cyclists out there.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Which is just
They're
crazy.
just not 50 kg freaks like Poggers.
Like to ride the whole tour and then be in a sprint finish on a sprint stage at the end of the tour, that's impressive. The thing I think that gets me, and I don't know how they do this, but if you win a sprint stage, but you don't finish the tour because you don't make the cut late in the tour, what happens? Because that feels like, what stops that from happening? What stops like a
Nothing.
team from stacking a sprinter team so they can get a jersey and so they can get the recognition?
They don't get the jersey if they don't finish the tour.
Yeah.
So that's what I was hoping for. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That seems
Yes.
like natural.
So you still have to finish the tour to be like the green jersey winner. Because that was kind of towards the end of it. They're like, with Biniam Gamaya, they're like, he just needs to get through these last couple of days. And the jersey's his kind of thing. So it was just like getting to the finish.
He had a crash as well, so he had.
Yeah.
It was quite a hard
gnarly
for him
crash
to
too.
finish the tour, and then the next day he actually won the intermediate sprint. So
which was in
pretty
the
good.
mountains as well. Like he positioned
Yeah.
himself in an impressive place to win that sprint.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the cool thing about that whole Biniam story, right? Is that he's actually become a super versatile sprinter as well. So, I think that he will potentially, I don't know how old he is. I don't know how old he is at all. Anyone know how old he is?
Mid-20s.
He could actually put himself in a similar sort of place as Van Aert long term. He
he's
seems
just
like he's
signed
probably
another 4 years with his team.
24.
There you go.
He's 24. Oh, so he's still got years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But yeah, you know what I mean? He could end up like a Van Aert kind of guy, I reckon.
Yeah.
The one thing I just hate watching is Jesper Philipsen coming through on Van der Poel's wheel and just pulling out the last 100 meters to go and taking all those wins. I'm like, it just fucks me off. I just can't stand Philipsen. So I'm like, I just don't want to see that anymore. And I was so happy when Gamaya was winning those stages against him.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really like Philipsen either. So
especially when he can't sprint in a
have
fucking straight line.
Too many fans, no.
Nah,
He's not making it better for himself though.
Nah,
what about,
he was pretty polarizing in the last Netflix doco.
Yeah, they
particularly well on that. They just buried him.
They certainly helped that, didn't they? But
yeah.
What about Cavs 35? I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
it's huge.
I think that's gnarly when you that's another documentary that's worth watching. But he's so like raw with his with what's going on with him and his emotions, his head, and all the rest of it. That's partly, I think, what makes that such a cool story.
Mm.
Is because it's an incredible achievement in itself. He's gone through so much to get there as well, and that like him coming back last year and getting that first win last year was huge. You know, that was amazing. And then for him to do it again this year, I think it's awesome. It's such a good story. I'm a fan.
I didn't watch the documentary, but actually, after Leger, I had to find a lift to the airport, and I got a lift with his neuroscientist.
I thought you were going to
Wow.
say Gav picked you up,
Yeah.
gave you a lift.
Yeah. Who's actually... He's actually also Sam Gazer's neuroscientist and neurologist. Yeah, so he's pretty much a performance... I don't know what he calls himself. It's performance aid, pretty much. David Spindler. And he's a pretty interesting guy. So
I bet he is.
He'd been with... Yeah. And a lot of those really top guys, they really struggle a lot mentally. Like Cav has had like some real issues with mental health.
Yeah.
And then David pretty much comes in and tries to help at that point, and then get him back to being able to win. And he tries to make it fun and like try and change their mindset towards winning so that they don't have the same expectation. And it's like, it's pretty smart what he does, but it's like quite simple at the same time.
There's a bit, it popped up in the highlights sometimes where like just before the end of a sprint stage, like as they were gearing up for it, and Cav's coach, might have been this guy, is in the team car on the radio, and they showed a clip of it. He goes, "Oh, bibbity bibbity boo," I think it was. It's a odd word. And they must have interviewed Cav about it after the race, and Cav's saying it's like a song that his kids sing or something, you know, like something about his kids, and the coach is in the car telling him it, because it's like, go to that place in your head and just have at it. And like that's an incredible mind trick, you know. Well, it's not even a mind trick. It's like, this is how I'm going to deal with the next 30 seconds, you know. That's it's amazing.
This was while we were in the car. He was getting heaps of Instagram notifications about that because it went on social media.
Oh.
So, yeah. So it was this guy, and it was pretty interesting. And he thinks that he's got Sam in a good place for the Olympics, so that should be pretty good if he can do that. They were off to Andorra to do a training camp with Sam, altitude camp, and he was helping Sam at Leger as well.
I think like my take on just watching Sam race and that lately, I mean, he's got a good shot at it. I'd say the course probably suits him pretty well, from what I've seen of it.
Should be good. He'd be like coming in kind of as an underdog as well. Like all the eyes are on Nino and the other guys. Like, not many people would expect Sam to be even like a medal chance, but like his potential is massive. So he probably, I think he could get the gold medal if everything goes well on the day.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting.
That's on like Monday or Tuesday, isn't it?
Monday.
Monday. Yeah,
Monday.
Women's, I think, Sunday, and then. Is that right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't wait. That should be cool.
I've got a quick question to the tour real quickly. Wearing the world champs rainbow stripes in the tour, is that mandatory?
If you were the road racing world champion, it is.
Okay, that's right. Just checking.
It's all right. You can wear your rainbow stripe jersey anytime, Chris. It's fine. We won't judge you.
It's
my first 4-cross world champs.
There's a weird hierarchy with jerseys. Like Pog was leading King of the Mountains, but because he was in yellow, Vingegaard was wearing the King of the Mountains jersey, but he was second in the points. But because the hierarchy of the yellow overruled Pog wearing it, it's just like weird how it goes to the second place person. Also, how good was Carapaz coming back and winning that? He put some effort in the last few days.
Yeah. And again, good for cycling as well, because he's from Ecuador. It's like becoming a more global sport, you know.
Great
Yeah,
for
yeah, that's
EF
true.
for him to come through and win that. Like,
Yeah, they needed that, I think.
he's a cool character. I like Carapaz. He's like one of my favourite guys to watch.
He,
I had a question. Oh, you go.
it's
You go
a
ahead,
bummer
Lester.
that he's not going to be at the Olympics being defending champ and all. That sounds like he was at the, I think he was at the, like, whatever it is, the Sports Court of Arbitration or whatever, trying to get their decision overturned because they only have one place.
He'd
And
gone
they
to that
made the
point as well.
decision on, I can't remember the dude who's going's name, but they made the decision quite early in the season, and he's just been
Now he's
fighting
in
it.
form.
And now he's in form, and the other guy had a crash, and people are sort of saying, well, he's crashed, he's hurt him, you know, he has had time out of training where Carapaz has been on the build the whole time. But
It's where you need a first alternate for, like you were for Fourcross, Chris. Put him out.
It seems like a lot of people have to go to the arbitration in each country to try and get their Olympic spots.
Does.
Been some
Happened
drama
in
with
New
Sammy
Zealand as
Maxwell.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Good to see she made it, though. That was a deserving spot for her, so I'm looking forward to watching her and Sam.
Oh, if she got a medal, imagine the interviews.
That would be amazing. She wouldn't hold back either.
That'd be great.
She'd become a national hero overnight. Like,
Yeah.
just because people don't know how funny she actually is yet.
I think I actually saw one of, I can't remember which media outlet it was today, reshared. She posted on the gram yesterday the thing about, everyone's asking me about the beds in the village and rah, which was quite a hard case. And I saw one of them had shared it on the news site. Might have been the Herald or something. Quite funny.
Yeah, I think she's got the biggest potential to grow into like a viral athlete.
Yeah.
Just like, doesn't need to win as long as they can do an interview after the race. It's like, it's so funny. Like,
she's got personality and skill, so it's like she could be just the all rounder.
Yeah, she's pretty much has everything you need for a current mountain biking professional. Like,
that's true.
That seems like, I mean, obviously, it's the outcome I think everyone would hope you'd have, but it sucks that it had to go through that.
Yeah.
Like, I think the worst part about it is, like, it's the same with the Cav thing, right? So that guy had some demons that he had to deal with, and the only way you could deal with that is to deal with it, right? Up front, in the public. He's a public athlete. And it's like, she's been exactly the same. She's not exactly hidden it. And it's like she was getting, it almost seemed like she was getting punished, well, not punished, but restricted because she was taking responsibility for her own mental health. You know, like, of course, there's considerations of someone's sort of like well-being and their fitness to race and all the rest of it. But you know, it's if the fact that she has been dealing with it sort of indicates that she is dealing with it.
Yeah, I think my take on the whole situation is that Cycling New Zealand is so cautious now with anything to do with that after the Olivia Podmore situation.
They've made some bad decisions in the last few years, haven't they?
You know, and they're still kind of coming out of the back end of that. And I wouldn't mind betting that they were like, let's just take the safest route out of this that we can find, regardless of what this decision looks like. And I'm not defending them at all, but I think maybe that was... Yeah, I won't go too far because I know people involved, but...
You're on the payroll, mate.
Yeah, look at me, obviously.
Difficult position, right? Like, CNZ are in a difficult position, but it seems like as an organisation they have to be all in or hands off. You know, like they have to go, we fully surround and support these athletes, or we leave it to them, right? And this scenario kind of feels like they were half in, half out.
Well, that's always how it is with mountain biking, right? They only really get involved when it's national champs or world champs or Olympics. Other than that, Cycling New Zealand doesn't want to know. And I guess they have a responsibility if one of the Kiwis does well at the Olympics in mountain biking, then there's a responsibility for Cycling New Zealand, and I guess it's through the Olympic New Zealand Federation or whoever the heck they are, to then like kind of look after them, how they become a carded athlete and all that.
That's kind of what like. That's why I say it is a difficult position. All round, because for an organisation like that to take fully accountable for their athletes, kind of right from the first point where they maybe start entering that pathway to the Olympics, that would be a huge amount of resource, a huge amount of effort, and energy, and cost. But then, if they don't have that resource or that funding or whatever else, then they have to step in at some point when they haven't been part of that athlete's whole journey to get there.
Yeah, totally.
And that's kind of what I mean. Like, you're either half in or half out, or it feels like they're half in, half out. But it is sort of an impossible situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, which team had the best livery at the Tour de France? Best bike, best kit. Who are we giving lit kit to? I've thrown this one on you.
The kit guy.
Are you?
I like what they did with that grey kit. I think it's cool.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm going Bora. That Red Bull.
I like the Red Bull.
Yeah, that kit just looked good. Like that was a good looking setup, I reckon.
Yeah.
I do like that.
I do like one of the white Specialized bikes. I think it was like a pretty simple, but it's just like S-Works is just really like, I think it might have been the Quick Step bike, but it was like
the
white
Quick Step bike was
black logos. It was like, it looked clean,
Remco's
Some
bike
of the other
was
ones
looking
have
pretty good.
too much going on. Like there's a lot going. Yeah, Remco's bike, I think.
Yeah.
His bike was the chrome one, I think.
Oh, was it?
That was sick. I really like the EF setup, and I like their Cannondales.
I've always been a fan of EF just overall. Like their kit and everything always looks pretty good.
I kind of like
the Palace deal, Leicester.
I don't think they do.
Was that gone?
I think that was a collab that they did 2 ranges, I think, with them.
It was like a Rafa EF Palace collab thing. It was just like a short-lived thing.
UCI didn't love it,
I don't know. Probably
don't think
not.
they did. They wouldn't.
Did you see that the Bora team was the worst team though? They won the least prize money.
What did they win? Like 18,000 euros or something?
Yeah, I think it was. What do we got? It's 16,000.
Really?
Yeah, here's the bonus, fellas. Good luck doing anything with that.
Yeah,
I think
we're going to take you guys to Macca's post-tour for a bonus.
It's going to be interesting.
They got the most payout and they're the lowest funded team or something?
Nah, they were about 3rd or 4th or something.
But they'll be the lowest funded team though, wouldn't they? UAE banked like 250 or something. Wow.
500.
Oh, that's right. Is it 250 just for winning or something?
Oh.
Pogacar won, so he earns 500. And then the team got 806 total.
Holy shit.
Wow. How's this? I was listening to a podcast with Finn Fisher Black yesterday, and the dude was asking him about, have you been involved in any wins or whatever that the person who you've been supporting has kind of brought you a gift afterwards. And they were talking about those Richard Mille watches and stuff. And he was like, oh, no, I haven't. Or no, someone had got him some random thing. And he was like, oh, that was kind of cool. But what was cool was after the last tour that Poggy won, he brought all the team yellow Vespers.
No way.
Yeah. And then and the dude was like, said to Finn, he was like, well, what if you won the tour one year? What would you get all the boys? And he was like, I'd buy them all jet skis. He was like, we've had this kind of like chat about jet skis in the team, and he's like, yeah, if I win the tour, I'm going to buy everyone jet skis.
Yellow jet
How
skis.
sick would that be? So good. It's actually a real good podcast. Like I knew nothing really about Finn before, but it's real good podcast.
Him and his
as
sister
well,
are doing really well. Yeah, he's another, local Nelsonian. Cousin George.
Nelson Nelson's really the road cycling hotspot.
Oh,
When
it's
you,
it's the Tasman Wheelers, mate. The Tasman Wheelers really just driving the country forward in road cycling.
yeah, all the professionals, pretty
Yeah.
much, all the good ones.
They've all
Yeah.
come through the Wheelers.
Yeah.
Doesn't,
See,
Lawrence Piffy's pretty good though. He's Christchurch, isn't he? Oh no,
Yeah, I
he's Hawke's
think
Bay
it's-
maybe. I'm not sure.
Not sure.
Nah, he's
But,
he pretty sure he is down there somewhere.
But he'll be good at the Olympics maybe.
Yeah, so is he doing the road race as well as I know
Yeah,
he's doing the TT? Yeah,
He was really good in the classics. He
yeah,
was in the break every time, and it's like I was like, how's a Kiwi in the break at these races where they have junior races there? So those Europeans, like, they have years to grow into a classics rider, you know, like, and it's a different style of racing and different style of riding as such. And then how are you a Kiwi and then getting in the break there, you know? Like, it's
that's
pretty
such
impressive.
a good point, eh? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
That's a bit like Cam Jones at like Unbound. He was in the front group at Unbound for basically like the whole race. Like,
Been battling at all the gravel races with
Yeah.
the top Americans. So, yeah, he did message me the other day asking about management, and I was like, yeah, I think
Oh, yeah?
you'll
Yeah.
probably benefit from management at this point.
Yeah, man, he must. He'd definitely be.
if he could get
Someone
into
on
that
the radar.
lifetime series, I reckon that would suit him. That kind of mix of gravel and XC, like those longer races seem to be where he suits.
Mm.
He's got the power for the sprint at the end, so he can compete. Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah, he's a big
Compared
unit.
to
He
some
is
of
a
them,
unit, eh?
Yeah. I actually raced him at that race. Remember the what was it called? The Top Gun?
Oh, was he at the Top
the
Gun?
Top
Was
Gun.
he?
Was it the Top Gun? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I had to race him in the cross country. and I
Yeah,
had to
yeah, you would have. Yeah,
push him out in the last corner. I took him out.
That was that was the difference between me or you winning. You passed in that last corner and
so
you
I
got the
passed
win.
him in the last winning the $1,000. at the
Yeah,
Top Gun.
I got fucking nothing.
oh, that's so good.
Yeah,
Hope you bought your team
sorry,
some,
Cam.
some
Sorry,
yellow
Cam,
Vespers.
but you've got to do. Yeah, I had real big team support. I borrowed Tim Bygate's Lapierre cross country.
That's right. Remember Phil
And,
Atwell turned up real hungover and just raced in a bib the whole day? He raced
Yeah, only
XC
the
on his
bib, yeah.
enduro bike in a bib.
That was a good weekend actually.
That was a
Top
great
Gun.
race.
Yeah,
Good,
Miss
good.
those days.
but that was
Oh,
my
shit.
claim to fame. I beat Cam Jones in a sprint. Yeah, he might have been about 12 years old, but yeah, I'll take it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Hey, a win's a win.
Yeah, it is. Goes down in the history books.
Yeah. On the Top Gun history books.
And the Palmares.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Top of my power barriers.
Yeah.
Hey, actually,
First line.
one last thing I meant to ask you earlier. I know you've ridden like a bunch in Europe, but have you ridden any of like the famous tour climbs or anything? Have you been and done any of those?
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah. Yeah, I've done a lot. Yeah. Actually, I did the Galibier, or like just from one side, so it's still 1,000 meters, but from
Still pretty solid.
I didn't do the other side, but I was on my downhill bike
What?
with Ethan. Yeah, I
I've
did.
seen
yeah.
that
Oh,
video.
shit, I remember
Yeah.
this now.
Ethan, my junior, on a road bike.
Yeah.
He was the junior at the time, and I was like, well, he didn't do much long riding before he came in our team.
It was Ethan Craig, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's actually killing it now?
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, I've got to try and race you with my downhill bike.
Did you beat him? I can't remember.
I think he might have just beaten me in the sprint, but it was like, yeah, he was struggling with the altitude at the top more than I was, because
Yeah.
I don't really, it doesn't worry me too much. But at the top, he was like, oh, it's quite hard to breathe. It wasn't like a full out race, but it was still like a bit of a joke as well. But we were going pretty fast because you can't go slow on a downhill bike because
No, you got to keep.
the seat
pace
doesn't
up.
go up, and you've got to keep that gear spinning. So
mate, that's
you're
heinous.
better to be in a harder gear than a lower gear and then you've got no gears left pretty quickly. So it was quite hard. Yeah.
And did you just run it like stock, like downhill tires, normal cassette,
Yeah,
everything?
I just pumped them up, pumped the tires up. My seat post is so short, so you can't really put it
Yeah.
up. Like
Was
even
that
if it's up.
was that like a 7 watts per kilo for 40 minutes effort?
Yeah, I think so, something like that. Yeah.
7.5.
What did Lance say? He did 500 for 30 minutes.
Is that right? 500 for
Yeah.
30.
Yeah, that's what he says, but I don't know. You generally inflate the figures as the years go on, you know, like
True,
it'll be
yeah.
550 in another 5 years.
What's
That,
the
goes
saying?
up
The older I
10 watts a
get, the
year.
faster I was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that effort, that Poggy's effort on, I can't even remember what the climb was called now. But yeah, was just shy of.
Yeah.
I think if you normalized it all out, it was 7.1 or 7.2 watts per
Yeah.
kilo at sea level for 40 minutes.
And he smoked the record from Pantani.
Pantani, yeah. So apparently
But
that
Pantani was on the old shit bike.
Yeah.
You've got
so
to
he put
say.
3 minutes something into him.
Also on
Yeah.
Coke.
Yeah, but have you guys watched the Pantani documentary or like
No.
the movie?
No.
Oh, it's worth a
Would.
watch. Give it a watch. It's
I have
like
to find it.
what a
Should
legend.
have a
Like,
look at
and
that.
there's a book about him and stuff like. It's a pretty interesting character because
I think I read
was out there.
the book actually years ago.
Yeah,
Um,
it was like crazy story.
So, at 7.27 watts per kilo for 40 minutes at sea level, which for
Yeah.
me,
You jump
I'd
on
be-
Swift,
I'd be-
you quickly
I'd be pushing-
realise.
I'd be pushing out 596 watts the
yeah,
whole way.
I'd be like 550 something, 553.
Yeah.
My FTP
It's
is
just
not that high.
unbelievable. I actually heard a funny podcast the other day with some it was like a listeners' questions or whatever, and these coaches were answering them. And this dude was like, Poggy's so good in the mountains, but surely if he came over to the US crit scene where it's just these like hot dog 1 mile long crits and flat, we'd all just smoke him. And they basically they were like, okay, here's the power for this dude who won this US Open crit or whatever it was, and here's Poggy's power that he can do on a time trial. And they were
Yeah.
like, Poggy would ride away from you at the start, and you guys would chase as a bunch, and you wouldn't be able to catch him. It was quite funny.
It's actually crazy how good he is. Even in
Yeah.
that last time trial was just mental. Like,
That time trial was huge. I was like, and they
Yeah.
talked about it heaps. They're like, he doesn't even need to be trying here.
no, he's
like,
and
he
then
could just
at the
ride
end
in.
he enjoyed it, but he didn't enjoy it until
Yeah.
the last straight. Like he's like crazy.
I
He's,
think all he wanted to
something
do was just lay waste to Vingegaard and just be like, I fucking got you.
What's up now?
I think the thing that's gnarly about that rivalry as well is that like Vingegaard's like tiny. He's that sort of like. I mean, he's
He looks like
he's alive.
An elf.
But then-
Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. That's his
like he doesn't look well, and then Pogacar's like a unit. Like he's like a bit of a rig. Like
Yeah.
it's gnarly that they're head to head the whole time. I mean, when Pogacar wanted to put the hammer down, he fucking did. But it's quite cool that you've got two quite different cyclists that are going head to head.
You look at,
I think
like if
Pog's
Pog,
changed it. He's
Yeah.
changed cycling, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say, like if Pog wasn't around, Vingegaard would be so gnarly. He would win, and he would be like in his own league by himself. But the fact there's two of them there that are at that kind of level is so impressive. And then Remco looks like he's got potential to get into that kind of range as well. It'll be
He's going to hit the
huge.
CO2 a bit harder.
Actually, about the tour this year is the first time the tour has not finished in Paris.
Mm.
You know that? And
That felt a
because-
bit lackluster, for a finish to me. I think
Yeah, it sucked.
the normal sprint finish, even if they'd had a sprint finish in Nice.
Fucking Olympics. Getting in the way.
Yeah.
But back to the question, I have done quite a few tour climbs.
Yeah. Have you done Alpe d'Huez? Surely.
No, I haven't done Alpe
You haven't?
d'Huez. No, so that's
done it on
still the
Zwift.
list. We have to get. Yeah, I've done the Zwift one as well. Yeah,
You guys.
in the UK garage in winter.
yeah.
Nothing like Alpe d'Huez Zwift.
Yeah.
And then when I did the video at the tour, I did the day before, and it was like the Queen stage, so I just rode ahead of the race with
Oh,
my
yeah.
video guy. And yeah, it was a pretty hard day for him. He was riding with a small camera and trying to film. But he was like, he didn't really ride road bikes before that. He was
That
just
was
mountain biking.
Lewis, wasn't it?
Yeah, Louis.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Louis. That's it.
good guy. And he also then from that, because he got the experience there, I was like, at one climb I said, don't come. We went back down into the valley and then back over another climb. I was like, oh, you just go straight, because then I'll just meet you. Otherwise, because it was like a 4.5, 5,000 meter day, and we had to go quite fast, so we stayed in front of the unopened roads. So
Oh,
we
yeah,
started
before
a
they were
little
closing
bit
them
too
off.
late. So we,
Yeah.
like the first 2 hours, I just like told him to draft me so we could like keep the place to not get closed off.
Mm.
And yeah, it was quite a hard ride for him.
Stay on a bike you've ever had in his life.
No, that he got that experience there, and then he was like, "Oh, it was pretty hard and horrible," and we had to walk a lot of the last climb because they kept like stopping us. But we've got to get to the top, and we've got these passes that'll get us in the VIP zone because we had media passes.
Yeah.
And we're getting there to get the food. We got to the top, and they're like, "No, those don't get you in there."
Oh no!
We walked for like a long time too, and it was 40 degrees on the last climb.
Oh,
It was
Jesus.
because on the Wahoo it's telling me 40 degrees. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, we're going up a climb for the Horta camp was the last climb.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it took
Man.
ages to get up. We got to the top, but then we luckily found someone that we knew, and she was doing like a cycling tour company, and she had all these sandwiches left over. But then the dudes that were managing the sandwiches were like, oh, you can have one. We could eat like 5. It's just been going one sandwich. Yeah.
The sandwich
So we got
managers.
one sandwich and then rode back down, and then I had to go straight to the airport, fly back. So it's like, yeah, it was
Oh man,
quite
that's
stressful.
savage.
We just made my flight as well.
Oh, fuck.
That was a long day, massive day.
What's it
yeah.
like? All the small towns and the big crowds and everything.
Oh,
Is it
it's
pretty cool?
so good. Yeah, it's so good. Even at like we started at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. There were people already like with their table and chairs set up on the side of the road, and the race is not coming in for like another 5 or 6 hours. Like,
They just drinking wine all day.
yeah, they're
Some of
just
those
loving it.
spectators are just full noise. Well, most of them are just full noise in the mountains.
On the last climb, they were all there because it's about an hour and a half or an hour away, and we're just riding through the crowds like full like they're just cheering because like and we didn't know before this, but our media pass could get us like we could be riding on the road. The police couldn't say anything. So we'd walked a lot. Yeah, we got to ride through the finish, which was pretty good.
That'd be pretty
But,
good.
Yeah, it was a good day.
I'd love to go ride some of those climbs.
And then yeah, it's worth doing. Like even to do it when the tour's on and do it in the morning, and you just ride somewhere and then watch it there.
Yeah,
and it's just so good.
Cool.
And then the next year I was like, oh, we're going to Roubaix, and he was like, yeah, because he'd done the tour thing. So he's like, oh, that'll be all right. And then he did the Roubaix, but he's only like a kind of climber build.
Yeah,
he looks more like
he's pretty slim.
Bit of a vineyard sort of guy.
Yeah.
And we took him to the Roubaix, and he said it was the hardest day on the bike ever. Like just the cobbles, because you need power for the cobbles the whole time. So it was the hardest day he's ever done. And we got to the feed zone with like 30 odd K to go, and he was white, and people were coming up to him asking if he's okay.
Oh no.
He's just real pasty, isn't he? Like just naturally.
Yeah. And he was like gone white as a sheet, like his face.
Shit.
People were worried for his health. So then I had to push him like the last 20K so we could keep the speed up. Otherwise, it's just going to take too long. So I was just pushing him, and we just passing people.
Because it was
a good
that
day.
was last year, just before I saw you guys in. What was that? Winterberg. When I saw you guys, I remember you, telling me about that.
Yeah, it was a good time that, but yeah, Louis loves a hard day. He's done Everest challenge and stuff. He's about to do a double Everest, I think.
Oh shit!
That's his plan. But yeah, he still said that the Roubaix was the hardest. So it shows how hard it is. It was 50 kilometers of cobblestones that are bad. Like it's quite something. So yeah,
Yeah,
sign
it is.
up to it. Do the amateur one, and if you're going to go to Europe in April.
In April.
Do
All right.
that.
Well, should we
Yeah.
book a trip over, guys? We'll go over and do
Is it
the amateur Roubaix.
Is that the OTB junket? That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll come and join.
We've done the
Not too
Walker.
far away.
Now we're heading for the Roubaix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, we got to put Edition Zero gravel in on the way there. That'll help.
That'll be a good build up for it. Actually, 250k in the belt.
Yeah,
Oh,
250
that'll
in the
be
gravel.
Roubaix will be easy then.
Yeah, it should be
Yeah.
fine.
How hard can it be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe people will start running those like the Fox gravel fork and the RockShox Rudy for the Roubaix. Get a bit of comfort on the cobbles.
Yeah, you'd think they would change their setup, but they're all worried about the first 100k.
Yeah,
So they don't they do everything like a normal road race, and then they hit the cobbles and like it all explodes.
Literally.
Wild, eh?
Yeah, it's just dangerous. I was like, this is so dangerous, and we don't have risk like that. Like our bike's just going to collapse, Like,
Yeah.
And racing downhill, you've got a full face helmet and protection.
Yeah.
That's I saw again on a podcast because I listen to a lot of podcasts, but someone was like giving some commentary around, the I guess the risk versus reward and what all the roadies give up in order to do something like the tour. Like how many training camps they've been in, the time away and the hours on the road and rah, and then they're like, and you go to a race and then some dude dies at that event. And, like that's actually a thing that happens and has happened at lots of races over the years. Someone has a crash off a side and see you later. You don't really get that in downhill.
No,
and they would look at our sport and be like, "Wow, that's way too dangerous." I'm like, "Yeah, your sport is way more dangerous because you're riding in a bunch. One person crashes in front of you, you're smoked. You have no choice but to crash, and you're not prepared for a crash. Like where we're crashing, you kind of tense up. You're like, "Oh shit, here it comes," and there's a moment before you hit the ground. Whereas they just go boom down on the road.
Yeah.
And they're built like I don't know, like a little twig. So they just break. Like
they've all got brittle bones.
I don't envy. I used to watch so much road cycling. And I used to be like, wow, this is so cool. They earn so much money. All of this, but this was just like youthful wish. Like you're like, oh yeah, I could earn heaps of money and be a road cyclist. And then now I'm like, they have shit life. Like it sucks.
They're just in it non-stop. Like I lived with friend of the show, Sam Horgan. I lived with him in Christchurch when he was racing for budget forklift team in Aussie. So he was as may as well have been a pro cyclist, and he was working part time in Christchurch. But even his life was non-stop. Like up at 5 on the wind trainer on the erg. He'd be at work for a bit, then he'd be 3 hours on the bike in the afternoon, eat a massive bowl of pasta salad, put his numbers onto his computer and fall asleep. Just non-stop all year. And you see some of the documentaries about some of these guys. I think there was a really good one about, might have been Froome a little while ago, I can't quite remember. It's the same thing. They just live in the suck the whole time.
And the altitude camps now, the places they have to go, like they're not going to a nice place to have a training camp. It's like somewhere on top of a mountain that has a crap hotel.
And there's nothing to do except for just train.
Yeah.
And they're constantly either got fucking grazes from a crash, saddle sores, just completely exhausted, anything. Like they're never having a good time.
I was explaining it to friends of ours down the street, non-cyclists, and they were kind of asking random questions about Tour de France, and I'm like, and then there's these dudes who are called the domestiques, and they make no money, and all they do is just get ground down to the bone, day in and day out, going and fetching shit for the people and towing them up hills, and they're like, what the fuck? This makes no
Hmm.
sense. You're like, yep, it doesn't really.
I somehow lucked into following Magnus Cort during the tour, and then he had to do a blue moustache
I saw the blue
if he
moustache.
reached 200,000 followers. So this is like when he had 120 or something, and then overnight it like was nearly 200.
That's a well worth, like, I'd do that to get 200,000 followers.
During the rest day, he had to dye his moustache blue. But then I started like checking for his old posts, and he was doing like a daily hotel room review, and they stay in the shittest hotels possible. Like it's so depressing where they're staying. After riding like those days, and then sitting in the bus for 2 hours or 4 hours after the stage to get to this crap hotel, like because often they'll stay in one place 2 nights, but then the stages will be in different places, so they have to drive in the bus to the stage, get to the stage, race, then the bus picks them up again, and then they have to drive again. So it's like they're spending up to 5 hours, 6 hours in the bus each day, on top of the riding.
And they're sharing rooms too. You're like, these are the like top of their game, and there's 2 of them sharing this tiny room with 2 single beds in it. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and then they're in a room with no aircon in summer in France. It's like, how can you even recover to keep going? Like, and then the teams get balloted which hotel they get. So the tour books all the hotels. But so you imagine like how many people they need to accommodate at each event. So then they'd be spreading them real far. Like if some of them would be miles and miles from where they're actually starting or riding.
I didn't realise that.
And then it's just luck of the draw where you go. So your team might get, or I imagine there's some backhanders in this, because like that's a huge,
100%.
it's detrimental to the performance of your team. Like if you have a good hotel or a bad one. So I bet there's some money passing ads to get the good ones. Like, yeah, we've got a bit of budget actually. We've got a spare mil if you can get us all the good hotels. I bet some of that goes on. Like, surely.
That's why they all used to take their own mattresses and all the rest of it.
Yeah, they do.
They still got their own chefs and...
Yeah, they take a truck just for mattresses. There's like a truck full of mattresses and pillows. And then their team staff have to drive there and put it all into this crappy hotel and move all the other ones out.
As like a top guy, like, you know, like a POG or something, what's stopping you from having like a absolutely mint motorhome with a driver?
Not allowed.
Are you not allowed?
It got banned because Richie Port did it when Ineos was kind of pushing the marginal gains. Yeah, Sky.
Yeah, okay.
At the time. And then he had this big motorhome for the Giro or for the Tour, for one of them, and then the UCI ruled it out after that.
Huh.
Otherwise, everyone would have that.
Yeah, it would be a clusterfuck, wouldn't it? And eventually, but
it's one of the things that seems kind of like, I don't know, as an observer or a spectator, that seems kind of cool about the tour, or like the Grand Tours anyway, is no one's bigger than the sport. Like the Tour de France can put like a top tour athlete who's earning, you know, $10 million a year into a shitty little country hotel, and like just be like, fuck yeah, like deal with it. Yeah. Like you've got to get up tomorrow morning and ride 230 Ks, and there's no glory in it. Sorry.
I wonder if POG gets the suites, like, because every hotel will have the better room.
Yeah.
But they're generally 2 to a room, so because they can't accommodate that number of people and having everyone getting their own room. So it's pretty mental. It looks pretty crap, actually. Now we've delved into it. They haven't quite really sold it to us anymore.
Nah, there's nothing I love more than a European hotel room with 2 tiny single beds where you can feel the breath of the person sleeping next to you because they're so close together.
Yeah. That does sound like a mountain biking trip with Lester.
Lester and Byron.
No, mate.
You're just going on a mountain bike holiday with Lester and Byron.
Well, me and Wyn once slept on the tile floor in an airport in like Italy, and then the New Zealand team turned up to pick us up, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have room. Maybe you guys can just hire a car going to World Champs." They were like, "Get fucked! You were supposed to come and pick us up, and everyone else was supposed to be taking a train, and we ended up just like sitting were like squeezed on a floor of like
Yeah.
a van with about 8 other people.
Yeah, it was jammed. I remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah, going
Yeah.
to Val Sol. It was horrific.
Yeah. It was classic. World champs trip.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we
Daniel's never been
we
for his
rode.
high end competition.
Remember, we got banned from riding the bikes at the hotel because we
Yeah, 'cause
were
they had
taking them on
crap.
the alpine ski trails and just destroying them.
Yeah, I think Brooke folded the wheel.
Yeah, me, you, and Brooke, and then Brooke folded a wheel, and the
Yeah.
hotel owner locked them up and wouldn't let us on them anymore.
Oh, no way.
But we were like,
good.
we were there real early, and we had nothing to do. And there was like out behind the hotel was these like hiking trails and shit, and so we were just riding these rigid cantilever brake bikes out of the hotel and just going and bashing them around. I don't even think we had
think,
XC helmets.
I think JK was the coach then too, no?
He was. JK came over
Yeah,
as
and he took
manager.
us rally driving, and he's like, "Don't tell anyone about this, boys."
Statute of limitations is passed, so it's fine now.
So good.
In the rental car.
Yeah.
No.
Oh man, that was a good trip. That was a great race, that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
That's
man.
good.
Very
Well,
cool.
we're an hour and a half deep. It's probably a good time to call it a day. I think we've covered some great topics today, and it's been definitely good having you on here, Wyn. Great to have some commentary from your side of the world.
No, it's been good fun, and we've discovered that we're not going to sign up to be Tour de France cyclists anytime soon.
I think that
We'll
ship
clear
has
up our
sailed.
contracts.
Yeah. The watts per kilo might not quite do it at this point.
Nah. Definitely
I was
might.
hopeful for a moment, but those hopes have gone.
Yeah. No, I'm feeling like Cav on the first day of the tour at the moment, so I don't think my days will be going very well.
Actually, with that haircut, KB, you're actually looking a bit like him in the first day of the tour too.
Yeah.
He came in with a fresh do.
He knows. He knows. Yeah, you got to start. Look good, feel good, all that.
That's right.
He wasn't
I
looking
can't
good when he
remember
was
my last
vomiting.
haircut.
Yeah,
I
yours been a
remember your
while.
last
Wyn.
haircut one.
I can't remember my last haircut, to be honest. No.
Been a bit of a gap.
Yeah.
You
don't want to
Yeah.
cut it often. You don't want to cut it often. Otherwise, end up looking like my brother.
True.
He cuts it too often.
like me.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of management when you don't grow hair properly.
Yeah. Well, the sunburn it seems to be the main problem, I think.
Yeah, Red Dog. When Red Dog's on here, he's usually feels that pinch. He's always got the sunblock with him.
Yeah.
KB, you've got like a real Peter Sagan kind of look going on right now.
If only I had that power.
He just retired as well, Sagan.
Yeah.
So congrats to Sagan on the career.
Yeah, I'm sure he's listening. I'm sure he's a big fan.
Yeah, he will be. He likes mountain biking.
Meanwhile, KB's never retiring, eh?
Nah, I'll race something forever.
We've talked about this. KB can't retire because then, like, there is no meaning in mountain biking for KB if he's not racing.
Yeah.
Red Dog and I talk about this a lot without you, KB, behind your back a lot. It's for like, if Kieran wasn't racing, like if he didn't race his bike, would he have any interest in riding one? And we're convinced you wouldn't.
Nah, probably. Yeah, I don't know. I do love riding my bike.
You don't know what you're
There's
doing.
definitely some doubt there. I was
Surely there's a Masters Worlds trip coming up, like at some point.
back
Cairns is getting
next year.
close, but I don't know. It's still pretty expensive to get to Cairns, so then I'd have to go and
I
battle
was,
Mitch Delphs for the title.
You have
Yes.
to wait till you're like 55, and then you'll be like, "Yeah, I'll go and have a crack."
Yeah,
yeah.
Masters 3.
Yeah.
We were in,
The kids have moved out. I'm ready.
Yeah, that's it.
yeah, that's it. I was in Rotorua on.
Went into a training room. Thanks very much.
He's finally able to get enough form. I was in Rotorua on Wednesday and talking with the guys at Wide Open. And anyway, Brooke, who's the marketing guy there, was saying that he's got himself a road bike and stuff now, and he's got some bags and whatnot, some bike bags. And
Glad you clarified what kind of bags he'd got.
and we were talking about how we were like, it seems like bike packing's booming at the moment, and then we were like, no, we're just getting old, and now
Yeah, it's just our
age group
demographic.
like becoming bikepackers. But then I was like, you've kind of got this life cycle of a lifetime cyclist, and you start off as a kid riding a BMX, and then you like start riding XC on some hardtail, and then you race downhill, and then you give up downhill and you go to do some enduro, and then slowly the events get longer and longer again. So you go back into cross country, and then you do like maybe a walker kind of length event, and then it's like some gravel stuff and a couple
This
of
is
100K
right
here.
our period that we're in at the moment.
Exactly. And then you go into the bike packing thing. And if I look around even TA in town here, you can spot the dudes who've like been like high level roadies in their youth, and now they're out training on their bike packing bike with their tri-bars on in their 60s.
When do we go back to BMX
this
though?
cycle.
That's what I'm hanging out for.
Well, see, you can't.
Like I'm going back to full cross. Even if I'm the only person racing it,
bring it
I'm going to
back.
go and race some full cross. I'm going to build a
Bell
track.
to Soul has a race every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There is actually a tangent that you can branch off out of the life cycle when you become a dad and your kids start riding, and then you're like, oh, take them to the BMX track. And you're like, oh, this is pretty
that's when it
cool. I'm
comes
going to get a
back.
hardtail again.
Nah,
Then you
'cause
buy a
you've got to be
cruiser.
an expert, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a
don't
cruiser
wanna be a BMX
dad.
parent.
Yeah, cruiser
Yeah.
dad. And then inevitably you're not as skilled as you used to be, but you're still pretty fit. So you crash and break your collarbone, and then that tangent ends there. And then
Tell
you're
you
back
what.
to cross country.
I'd rather crash racing a downhill bike at Coronet than crash racing it like a cruiser on a BMX track.
Oh,
On
yeah.
a lime-coated BMX track.
Limestone, like, nah, not having it, thanks.
Do you
Cheers.
think a broken collarbone at a BMX track is just like a rite of passage? Like, has anyone not done that?
I haven't
I
broken
have-
my collarbone there.
I don't think I have. A
Man.
lot of gravel rash.
Yeah.
I did knock myself out and start convulsing on the ground, and Dodsy had to basically come and wake me up. When I broke my Z1s off, casing a triple in the mud on the track. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar story when I was knocked out in Wanganui, and Blinky had to take me home, and we went to this Indian dairy, but I was like all full gravel rash on my face. And I just started ripping into the Indians, but because I was like on like another planet, really, I started speaking back to them with an Indian accent. Like, what has happened to this guy?
Oh my god.
I remember you knocked yourself out at Island Bay jumps one day too.
Yeah,
Wyn.
that was bad. Yeah, and
That
then
was
the boys
gnarly.
were like, "Yeah, just watch the TV for a bit."
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was the same year. Claudio was there as well. I'm pretty sure that was the same trip.
Yeah, it was national champs.
Was it national champs?
2004.
Yeah, Claudio was there, and he knocked himself out as well. And he woke up, basically kind of snapped out of it when we got back to JK's house, which was, up the top of the hill. And Claudio wakes up, and he didn't know where he was, and starts speaking Swiss, German, or whatever to us. And we were just like, no, you're in New Zealand, man. And he just did not know what was going on, eh?
Yeah.
Completely out of it.
Well, I thought I was Indian.
Yeah.
I had a mate of mine go down at the first tabletop at the Tahuna Beach BMX track, and by the time I got to him, he was just convulsing on the ground. There was 2 teeth lying on the ground in front of his mouth. A third one that was gone, so we think he swallowed that one. It was that was pretty grim. You might remember Jimmy Pritchard.
Yeah, I remember Jimmy. Yeah.
I know
it was
that
Jimmy.
name.
Yeah.
Did he race downhill for a bit?
Yeah, he raced a bit of downhill and bit of four cross and that around here.
Oh yeah,
Local
that'll
guy.
be where I know the name. Yeah.
Everyone's got a BMX track story.
Happy days.
Oh yeah.
I actually
Dangerous places.
I took the boys to the new Nelson pump track a few weeks ago, and I had to dust off my Haro Zero from 2005.
No way.
Yeah, still got it. Yeah, dusted that off, took it down there, and I was like, I did about 4 laps, and I was like, this is hard work, and there was all these kids who are like, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, and they're like, oh, can I have a lap on your bike? And I'm like, yeah, go for it. Like, so then next thing it just became the bike. They're all just like punching out a couple of laps each on. I was like, I'm done. You can ride it.
Haro Zero. I had a Haro Zero too.
Yeah,
Okay.
same one. Same. I've still got that same one.
No way.
Yeah.
Is that like the one kind of had a funky like seat cluster on it?
Nah, it
White
was like
tube that
it was
went
a
up
pretty
and then-
slick hardtail. Like, it was a pretty tidy hardtail, really, and it was
Oh,
about.
sorry, I thought you were meaning the BMX.
Oh no, yeah, it was like, I think it cost me like $300 wholesale. Like, it was so cheap. It came with a gyro on it too.
I think I had one of those.
Yeah, it would have been in your time, in that era of you riding
I
those.
had
You had a Stingray back in the day.
a Stingray.
Joke. He was in Joke on a Stingray, wasn't he?
This was the old man on and Joke on Stingray.
yeah. I can't remember if mine's a Zero or if it was something else. Mine was like a kind of a greeny.
Mine
colour.
was all black. There was a few versions of the Zero came out around that time.
Yeah, I do
Still.
remember the green one as well.
Yeah, I think that was slightly later than the black one.
I had a red and silver one of those for a short time. That was not like yours. It was around the same time, but it was had the big fat top tube on it. And then I replaced that with my GT Ruckus, which I've still got in the shed.
And
What a bike!
In that era, if you didn't have a GT Ruckus, then you had a Specialized P3.
Oh
Yeah.
man!
Or a DMR Trailstar.
Yeah, or a Kiwi. Was it the
Progressor.
No, what was the other one that everyone
Stealth.
had? The Stealth.
And that was also cookie cutter frame. You could get a Kiwi Stealth, or you get a Dub Bomb.
Yeah.
The bomb, I had a bomb at one point.
I had a bomb. I had a bomb Accelerate, the one with the crazy like the seat tube like those giant acids had.
Yes, they were terrible.
Oh man,
so many bad bikes.
Yeah, what a time. We lived in a great era of bikes.
The Stealth frame at the King of Down race in Napier.
You broke it.
No, I won it.
Oh, you won it.
You won a Stealth.
Oh.
And King of Down. Oh, that would have been.
That would have been Leicester that would have organised that.
Yeah. Probably from you.
That's right.
Yeah.
You probably got to shake Leicester's hand when you got it. No, you'd remember it.
No, I do remember. Like I was probably pretty nervous, because the Kiwi bus was there.
Do you know what's even better is before even the Kiwi bus, I was signed up to the Team Stealth newsletter, and you got an email newsletter from Team Stealth, which was Leicester and Dodsey.
Yeah.
It's Leicester's, the origins of Leicester's mountain bike writing career.
Team Stealth sending out
we could
email
go
newsletters.
on a deep dive here, but I'll have you know.
We need to save that for when we get to know Leicester.
I'll just drop this little nugget in there because it's highly relevant to this day and age. I had a GeoCities blog, website, that I used to write race reports when I was 14. Oh, I must have been 15. Yeah.
Oh, that's early days.
Yeah. That was when I got my very first proper mountain bike. Oh, sorry, it was my second proper mountain bike. I had a Diamondback Ascent, and then I got some Specialized hardtail. Oh no, hang on, there was another Giant in there somewhere as well, but it was basically my first proper mountain bike. I started writing race reports and just stuff about what I was doing.
Amazing.
And scanning photos from throwaway cameras to put on there.
We were doing that. We had a website that Malcolm and Red Dog and stuff put together. And this is where the name came from. Back in those days, you had to have a name for your riding gang, and we called ourselves the Palmy Huckers.
Like the Tapuki Thrashers.
Yeah, you probably would too.
Because you'd come to the Wanganui shuttle days as well.
Yeah, we came to the Wanganui shuttle days, and that was where I first met Banger. And I remember real distinctly, we came across and everyone was there, and sitting on the back of that truck. And you'll remember when some of the shit that got talked about on the back of that truck going up, with people like Weasel and stuff, and the rubbish that was being talked about. And we got a pretty rapid education on things that we probably didn't need to know about for a few more years.
Yeah, I would have been about 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Raised in the downhill shuttle.
With that,
in the fight.
I reckon it's probably a good time for us to actually sign off this time around before we go completely sideways. But yeah, thanks again, Wyn, Lester, Chris. Thanks, boys, and we'll see everyone next week.
What's up? I come from the land of down under. I can't hear you. What was that? I can't hear you. I let it be like John Lennon, the anti-serum that you don't get for poisonous venom. Read the label carefully, I'm only here for the show. I love hip-hop too much to let you feed my ego. In the key of F-U-C-K, Y-O-U. I mean, why do I owe you if you're not helping me through? I mean, why do I owe you if you're obstructing my view? Success is not my castle, just a house that's brand new. You see, I irrigate the culture, give it shape like a sculpture. Still complicated, rock like I'm supposed to. B-L-I-T-Z like my DJ. Rock to the rhythm like you rock to what he plays.